book differentiates a number of southern Indian vocal genres from their northern counterparts, and I could play examples of each, but for the sake of your sanity and mine, I will just briefly mention them here. The subtle musical differences are less notable than the formal or textural aspects. Classical music of the royal courts is called Dhrupad in the north and Ragam Tanam Pallavi in the south. The main difference is that the northern form has a fixed text and little improvisation, while the southern form is nearly entirely free improv with very little text. The three-part name refers to the specific sections of the performance of a piece: a call and response between vocalist and violin, which is the ragam, a quasi-pulsatile section, the tanam, and then a metered section called the pallavi. Tarana and tirana are forms used to accompany dance. The vocal element here consists entirely of bowls, drum syllables. Here I have a video, a brief clip of Tarana steps. I don't think the music here is traditional Tarana, as the vocalist is singing more than just bowls. Like Khyal in the north, Kriti are the most popular of the classical vocal forms in South India. A general difference is that Khyal typically is a male-dominated genre, whereas Kriti is performed by women as well. Let's look at Kriti in more detail. The typical instrumentation is voice, violin, tambura, and mridangam. The violin isn't always present, but some sort of single melody instrument is usually included, distinguishing this form from the northern forms that we looked at. The typical form would be a verse and refrain structure, the verse being called karanam, and the refrain is the pallavi. The vocalist may repeat a phrase several times before going on to the text. Each repeat will be embellished or varied each time. Interpolations to the text and ornamentation are the most common improvised additions. The singer may also, quote-unquote, jam on the solfege syllables of the scale of the raga being used. Finally, drum solos by the percussionists may be included as well. Tyagaraja is the best-known composer of Carnatic music. He was a devotee of the god Rama, and his music was a means of spiritual devotion and enlightenment. The favored form of his compositions was Kriti, and the topic of his poetry and songs often expressed the disappointments and failures of his own life, as they do in this example. Your listening guide begins on page 269. Essentially, he's saying to his god, "Why do you allow me to be so miserable? Yet I cannot blame you for my misery." Rough translation, "Hey Rama, why do I blame you even though I know how to worship you? Is it right that children get angry with parents? All good things happen depending on our karma, our deeds. You dispense blessings depending on one's karma. Our health is determined by fate, but all spiritual wellness comes as a result of devotion. I realized this universal truth only when I succeeded in seeing you." Now, the form of this excerpt is essentially alterations between verses and chorus, or a refrain. In other words, refrain, verse, refrain, verse, refrain. Again, the refrain is called Pallavi, and the first verse of a Kriti is called an Anupallavi. The final verse is called the Karanam. In this slide, you can see the Arohana of Arohana, the rise and fall of the scale in Raga Kannada. It's pretty kinky. Things to listen for: vocal improvisation, repeated phrases with florid, ornate variations on each repeat, and note that the violinist will carefully follow the singer, anticipating the improvisation. This suggests that the string player is as knowledgeable about the composition as is the vocalist. Normally, I would take time to play this in class, but this is your next listening assignment and listening exercise, so you can listen to it on your own. Your text touches upon a few folk music traditions and points out that in everyday society, these have been functionally replaced by recorded music and film, but is continued to be practiced in performances for tourists, weddings, festivals, etc. I have two examples. The Langa cast is a cast of musicians who play for festivals and celebrations in the northwestern state of Rajasthan. I have video of a Langa accompanying a traditional dancer. The Chinamelm is a drum ensemble in the South, sometimes augmented with double reeds or flutes, that accompanies traditional dances. Here's some footage. The Baals are a unique and distinct cultural group located in the state of Bengal and the neighboring country of Bangladesh. Their religion is a hybrid of Hinduism and Islam, but above all, they cherish simplicity in life and equality for all. They often come from the poorest segments of society. Their clothing is often bright orange. Your text likens their singing style to the blues, expressive, full-throated. Texts are not usually explicitly religious, but may allude to religious or moral allegories. Finally, a Baal singer may accompany himself or herself with a chordophone and a small drum, one in each hand, or may have a small group accompanying him or her, including a distinct drum called the kamak. This drum has a membrane that resonates a string, allowing the player to create a swooping sound. Listen for it in this video.
সখিরা সখিরে আমি কোন কুলে যাই বল গো সখী হে আমি কোন কুলে যাই বল গো সখী আমি কোন কুলে যাই বল গো সখী আমি কোন কুলে যাই বল গো সখী একুলে থাকিলে পরে একুলে থাকিলে পরে কপের কুলে পড়বে বাকি আমি কোন কুলে যাই
This lecture covered Chapter 13, 266 through 273. Review that. And then finish the listening exercise, which covers Ninada Nella, or Why Should I Blame You?